Hello, guys. Welcome to episode 15 of the When in Doubt podcast. We are getting up there in the numbers. You got Hayden,
Noah, Gavin,
and we are calling in from Florida once again.
It's going to be an exciting day. Reason it might be exciting is because not a single one of them really know what we're talking about because I watch a different podcast. Shout out to the Nontendo podcast. I watch them all the time. They talk about like Nintendo news, but also just video game news in general. So this episode is going to be very video game themed. So hopefully you guys like that. Because if you don't, this one might not be for you. But I promise
Stick
we're
around
going to make
anyway.
it exciting.
It'll be
Stick
fine.
around anyway. It's going to get exciting. Episode 15, let's do it. Hi guys, quickly, this is post-editing Hayden. I just want to let y'all know I'm sorry about the audio for Liam from Florida as he's trying to talk through the computer to the microphone. I was planning on connecting a Bluetooth speaker so it would sound nice and crisp, but my Bluetooth speaker died, so we had to use the computer. His audio is pretty bad. I promise it won't be this bad again. Sorry about that, but enjoyed the episode. Alright, welcome back to the episode. Today, we're going to be talking about something big in the gaming sphere, in the gaming world right now, which is the topic of emulation. I don't know if you guys have any idea what that is. Liam might, because it seems like he does.
Know what that is.
So I'll
Experience with emulation.
yeah, so I'll give you a quick rundown. Basically, what emulation is it's the ability to, on a computer or a PC or a hardware, be able to basically emulate or like stream or play a game from a game system on that hardware. So, like, an example of that would be me being able to emulate an old Mario game on my PC, which I can do, and I do. So the reason why I do this right now, and it's kind of a big deal right now, is because, as time has gone on, these companies have come out with more and more emulators of, like, different consoles. And what's tricky about that is the legality behind it, because actually making something that can emulate games is legal, and I'll tell you why that is legal in a second. But what's not legal is how most people get the game files themselves. Because, for example, think about it this way: like, if I could, let's say, had like the Xbox system basically inside my computer, which is the emulator itself, how do I put the game on my system? That's what's tricky. Because there's no disk drive. Like, I can't put a disk in my computer anymore.
A floppy disk.
Yeah, you can't put a floppy disk in my computer. Those don't exist anymore. So you basically have to download the game file, like the file for the game. Now, that's where it gets tricky, because you can go on the internet. You're not supposed to, but you can go on the internet and look up game ROM for this game. Insert the game, look it up, probably one of your top couple links. Click on it, download the game, put it in your emulator, you're good to go. And you could literally play any game ever. Period.
But you're saying that's not legal.
But the part that's not legal is actually stealing the game, like downloading the game. The part that is legal is emulating it. Reason why is because if one company had the rights, basically owned the console itself, a lot of these consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, I mean, they're all made with a lot of the same parts, the same components, that the same graphics cards, the same type of parts inside the console that actually make the system work. So if one company, like let's say, for example, Nintendo, owned all that stuff, it would be a monopoly, and there would be no other game systems, because for Microsoft and Microsoft and Sony to be able to like make their own consoles, they'd have to buy those parts through Nintendo. So the reason why it's not illegal to make emulators themselves is because the stuff that is emulators, which is the systems, the graphic card and stuff, that is not illegal to like basically use, because anybody can use that. So that's why it's not illegal. But the illegal part is downloading the games. So obviously there are legal ways to get your own ROM. For example, there's applications where you can basically take your disk and put it in a computer that does have a disk slot and basically take the ROM file from it and then like put it on Dropbox and then take it yourself. So there are legal ways, and there's other ways to go around that and actually get your ROMs legally. But realistically speaking, what percentage of people are going to go through the hundreds of extra dollars and the way more effort it takes to go, get all this like supplies and stuff you need and learn how to do it? Because also, one other thing to note, as of right now, emulation is not easy to do, really. Like, you have to know what you're doing. It's not like I can just go press one button, press another button, drop a file there, press play, and play any game I want. That's as of right now. That's not how it is. Obviously, as emulation.
Some emulators that are easier to operate, but for the most part, it is a bit more complicated.
Yeah,
But that's kind of what you get for getting free games.
yes, correct. I was gonna say it's like
It's just like any emulator you get, at least the ones I've used, the game is super glitchy.
Yeah.
Most of the time it'll crash anyways.
It's the thing is emulators nowadays, especially if you know what you're doing, they've gotten good enough where that's not an issue anymore. At least with the older games.
I guess I'm just using the wrong ones then.
Yeah, obviously the newer game, and that does happen for sure. Obviously more than playing it on the actual console itself.
Yeah.
But there's also things you can do with emulators that actually can make the game better. Like, for example, if you're playing an older Mario game on an emulator versus on the original console, you can, add texture packs and stuff, basically enhance the graphics and make the game better than it actually was on its original console, if you know how to do it correctly and using the correct software. So the reason why I bring this whole conversation up is because there's this company called Yuzu, and they made a Nintendo Switch emulator. Okay. So obviously that's not illegal to do because they're just making something that can play games, and that's not illegal to do. Obviously where it gets illegal is people downloading Nintendo Switch games.
Yep.
But the reason why Nintendo is so pissed about that right now is because as of up until honestly now, emulation has always been something on way older consoles. It's always been on way, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 a little, NES, SNES, these super old consoles with 8-bit, 16-bit games. Even pushing to N64, but still they've been around that era. Now emulation has caught up with the consoles. Yeah. So literally a console will come out and 5 to 6 years. I mean, the Switch has been out for 7 years, and I think Yuzu came out 2 years ago. So 5 years into the Switch, technically speaking, I could go download a Switch emulator on my computer and start taking ROMs off the internet and never have to buy a Switch and play any Switch game I wanted. Technically speaking, you could do that. I mean, not legally, but you could.
I see now.
So the reason,
I just downloaded a game off of an emulator 3 days ago. Was that illegal?
No. So it's the illegal part is finding the ROM itself of the file of the game. That part's illegal. But it also it gets super gray because there's obviously sites that actually sell the ROM to you. They'll basically make you pay to buy the ROM file of it's basically you're buying the game, but you're buying it digitally so that you can use it on an emulator specifically. So it totally depends on how you do it. But the reason why Nintendo's so mad about that right now is because basically they lost direct skills. Recently a big game Nintendo came out with was Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And Yuzu as a company, they don't admit this or say this, but people got the file somehow on the internet. Leakers stole the file from Nintendo and put it on the internet, and people were playing Tears of the Kingdom early on emulators, a week before it even launched initially, the actual game launched. And what's even the trickier part
that is not good.
Yeah, that is not good. and what's also not good about that is that Yuzu, even though that they're technically doing nothing illegal because they're just an emulator, they're just the ones providing the way to play the game. They're not the actually ones stealing the ROMs and stuff. They, about a week before Tears of the Kingdom came out, launched an update on their emulator that, people are like, oh, why'd they launch the update? They went into the patch notes. They basically updated the emulator so that it was ready to play Tears of the Kingdom a week before it came out. They knew, people from that company knew that people were going to steal the game, and they wanted it to be ready to play the game a week before. So they basically optimized their emulator to be able to play a game a week before it actually released.
Oh,
so then it gets
it's like a spy thriller movie.
Yeah. So then Nintendo sues this company millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Rightfully so.
And then it gets just all messy because it's this whole argument of but Yuzu technically didn't do anything illegal. They technically, all they did was they had their emulator. They didn't do anything with stealing the game files. Yes, they may have updated theirs purposely so that if people did get the game files, they could play the game, but they didn't know that, technically. They didn't know that. So where do you draw the line in emulation? How recent does it have to be? And the last argument, before I let you guys kind of have your opinions after.
Before you let us talk?
Yeah, before I let you talk, after all this brain dump on you guys.
He's back in the chair.
Is the fact that one thing that people argue about a lot is game preservation. Think about it like this. As of right now, there are a bunch of old shops, online digital stores. For example, the Wii one and the Wii U one are something that just happened recently. The shops shut down. For example, if you go on the Wii right now or the Wii U, you go on like the Nintendo store, like the Nintendo eShop on the on the Wii U or the Wii, you're not able to buy games on there anymore. And there were hundreds of games that were digital only games that are now gone forever. Like you can quite literally legally never play them again if you didn't already buy them, because the shop shut down and there's no way to buy those games physically, so they're gone. So there are hundreds and hundreds of publishers that publish games on these shops, and then the shop shut down, and if you didn't buy it yet, now you just can't play it. So people argue that one of the reasons for emulation is that so that they can almost preserve that those games that are digital, you can still download them and play them, and it's for ease of access. And with that whole idea, it's also like people argue like, oh, the people who are doing emulation are probably already own the game, realistically, that they're emulating. They just are downloading a ROM off of a website just so that they don't have to go through all the work to actually get their own ROM, even though they already own it. Mm-hmm. So my question for you guys, after all of that, is, and the question going around right now in the gaming sphere, is where do you cut off emulation? Is it only specifically for game preservation? Like, up to which console do you think it's fine to use it until it gets to the point where it's like, you could probably just buy a PS4, or like, oh, you could probably just buy a PS3 or whatever. Like, where do you cut off that line? And also, is it Yuzu's fault that they are, basically letting people play the games illegally?
I mean, I feel like what is the company? Yuzu?
Yuzu.
I feel like it's kind of their fault if they're updating it, like optimizing it for this game. And you're saying like they played a week early. That means there was a publicly known release date for Nintendo's game, right?
Yes, correct. There was.
So then they knew it was playing way early, and they knew people were playing it, and obviously talking about playing it early.
Yep.
Like I don't know. That's.
And then
my stance is, all these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies. They're greedy, they're wealthy, and they can spare a couple people anywhere in the game. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, I think we will get to a point where it could possibly take over, like, buying the actual game on the actual console. As of right now, that is not the case. Emulating is up and coming, yeah, but a majority of the people are still buying the new console, buying the new game. They're not going through all this hassle to emulate a game, because most people don't have the time or patience to figure out how to first get an emulator, which is a whole process, and then getting a game on the emulator.
Yeah.
People like you and me, kind of nerds, we like our video games, we can go through the hassle of getting an emulator. Most people aren't. Most people just want to have their game. Another thing I like to say is that people do like having the physical copy of things. Like, would you rather have an electronic version of an album, or like the actual record itself? You'd rather have the record, right?
No.
Okay, well,
record definitely.
You'd rather have a record that you need a record player for? And you can only have it in one spot rather than an electronic copy when you can play it whenever you want, wherever you want?
I'm not saying to have the physical copy to just play the game, but even just to have it on display or to collect it. Like, people like showing off their collections. Like, go into Hayden's room. He has all of these games laid out on this nice shelf. Yeah. It's all pretty looking, and you can't really have that when you have all these emulated games. It's just like, oh, here's the game file. It's like, okay.
Okay.
You could just print a piece of paper of the game file and put that in your room. That's
like where it gets nerdy, because it's like I literally know people who like mostly have their game collection digitally, and they're literally like, oh yeah, I have an Excel file on Microsoft with every game I own all on Excel. And I'm like, bro, I don't really care. Like, if you had them all sitting out on a shelf, I'd be like, oh, that's sick. Like, I could see all the, the box art, the cases. But then if somebody's like, oh, I have a spreadsheet of all my games, I'd be like, bro, what? Like, nah, nobody cares.
Reminds me of back in the good old days when you'd, like, be watching a movie with your friends and just, like, pull out the DVD case and like, open up the thing and just, like, okay, which of these movies do you want to watch? Like,
my parents still have a huge shelf in the basement, and it's just, like, top to bottom movies. There's probably, like, 500 movies on this thing. Guess how many we watched? None.
Yeah.
Like, just the other day we watched a movie, and my mom's like looking for the DVD. Like, we can just rent it for $2. And then she's like, well, if I find the DVD, I'll buy it. Like, like my dad's like, we're not ever gonna watch this movie again. Yeah. Like, oh, good point.
Yeah.
Like DVDs and like records are just records are making a comeback.
They are huge
But
comeback.
DVDs are not making a comeback.
Yeah, for sure. So Gavin, it's your turn for the opinion.
Hot take. I have never been a huge fan of emulators.
Okay.
Like, I just feel like emulation, I get the preservation of a game, and I understand that. I feel like there should be boundaries to emulation, though. Like, they should not be able to emulate a Nintendo Switch. I feel like that should be illegal.
Where would you say the cutoff would be at how recent of a game console? Like, if
the console is still very active, like, obviously you just said the Wii and Wii U just shut down their shops, I would consider that an inactive console.
Okay.
Like, you can't go buy a new Wii anymore. You can't go buy Wii parts. You have to buy everything used.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like, Nintendo Switch, you can buy them used. You can find them anywhere. Too active to have emulation on it. I personally think there should be a cutoff or a copyright law for emulation, but that might just be me.
Yeah, no, I agree on that front. I just say the one thing, I just say people argue about that is the whole idea of, like Liam was saying, it's just like people who are going through the process of mostly of emulating a Switch game probably already have a Switch, probably already own that Switch game, or at least if they don't own a Switch game, they probably own a butt ton of other Switch games. And it's like, I get it. It's realistically, legally speaking, I agree with Gavin. You shouldn't just be able to go on and just play a Switch game. Like, that shouldn't, especially with how the console is right now, you should not be able to do that. But it's just the amount of work that you have to do to go through to get to that point right now, it feels like it shouldn't be something that Nintendo really needs to crack down on as much as they are literally suing a small company that can't even really profit because they're basically just working for free with a couple guys who just have a passion for making emulators and wanting more people to be able to play games. I kind of feel bad for the little guy. You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, and I think, going back to what Gavin was saying, I think there should be some sort of a cutoff. I mean, I don't really stand anywhere where I feel strongly on either side, but I think emulation is really good for when, for example, the Xbox 360, if you want to buy the games online on the actual Xbox, you can't anymore. You have to buy the actual physical copies. So I think emulation is really good for games that are, or for the consoles that aren't releasing games anymore for that console. I think it's really good for that. And that's all I had to add.
Yeah, I was going to say for older consoles that maybe you can't buy the games, you have to buy these games used now. One thing I will admit that I actually saw one of the Nintendo when suing was talking about, especially with their older consoles bringing into this, they were saying the reason why they don't like it at all, which I will admit is very true, I think, because this has happened to me, is that I feel like because of how techie I am, if I want to emulate a Xbox 360 game or a Wii game or a GameCube game or all those basically from then on older, if I want to emulate one of those games, I can't because I'm techie enough, I understand how it works, I can do it. I can, although it's illegal, I can find easy ways to get the ROM if I really want to. Not that
it's illegal. Not that
I've ever done it. Wink, wink. Never done it. But if I had, I definitely could easily do that.
Gonna get canceled.
And the reason why big companies are arguing about it is because they're saying that they are basically emulators are convincing people to stop collecting games. Because, for example, for me, if I go to a store and I see an Xbox 360 game that I really want, I stand there and I'm like, okay, I could right now stand here and buy a $35 Xbox game to go play it on my Xbox One, or I could go home and download the emulation file and get it up and running in 20 minutes. For free. And it's like especially for a guy as into that as I am, I obviously am going to be like, I'm just going to go home and play it on emulation. But then there's other people that are maybe like, I don't really want to go through all the hassle to set that up. I'm just going to buy the game. So big companies are arguing that they're losing sales on used games because people are just emulating games now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like you could tie that into think about it as in, you can do the same thing with movies. Like, you can buy the movies, you can go to Netflix, Hulu, movie theater, whatever, buy the movies, or you can go to some of those random, black market websites.
Literally.
And I think we have the same take, whether it's movies or video games, whether we don't support it physically, but we will use it to save the money.
Yeah.
We're that's how I feel about both the emulators and the free movie websites that you can find,
Yeah. The only thing about that is that it's with movies, I feel like if I'm out there okay, I could pay $10 a month and get or let's even just say a specific movie. Like I could rent this movie tonight for $2, watch it on my big screen TV, like 4K quality, gorgeous, great sound, everything.
Gorgeous.
Or I could go watch it on some random website that I find it on, and the audio quality is horrible. There's like little ads in the corner. There's like it's super grainy, and I have to like watch it on my phone.
That point,
But
I would rather watch
and then it's like in my head, I'm like, oh, I'd rather just get it for $2. But then with emulation, it's almost the opposite, because I could, for some games, I'm not saying all games, but for some games, I could buy this game for $35 at the store, or I could go home, download the emulation, turn on a few mods to make it look better, and I could probably play the emulated version of the game better than I would have been playing the actual version of the game. So that's where movies and video games differ, because emulation can actually get better than just watching a movie, where it's actually definitely worse when you're just black market basically getting it.
I feel like it all just comes down to like convenience and what people are willing to do to like go around spending the money. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, with me and Gavin, all last week, he was in Florida with me for spring break, and one of our friends put us onto a little sketchy website where we could watch anything for free, and it actually worked pretty nice.
He knows.
But other than that, it was pretty good. Wouldn't you agree, Gavin?
Buddy's out here like supporting, like, dude, great website. Shout out to that guy.
Shout out to scammovies.com.
Yeah, literally. No, so yeah, I
actually
mean,
forgot what it's called.
yeah. let's not say what it's called. Let's not say what it's called.
There's actually probably a website called scammovies.com.
Yeah, they're
just give them free advertising. You're welcome.
Yeah, there definitely is. So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the topic about emulation right now. That's going around big just because of that lawsuit that happened, and they kind of end the story, which you guys I'm sure don't know. I do. Nintendo did win that lawsuit, so
Yeah,
Yuzu.
I would say that's reasonable. That would make sense.
So Yuzu is gone.
Wait, that's it?
So this is what happened. Yuzu had to take it, so you can't download it anymore. But if you already had it, you can still use it.
Oh, they had to take it off the stores?
They had to take it off the stores. So it's like if I already downloaded Yuzu on my computer, which I definitely didn't. Wink, wink.
Wait, is that another wink, wink?
Yeah, that was another wink, wink. Then I would not be able to have it. But if you already have it, you can use it. Two last things. The last thing you will be able to talk about more, guys, I promise. One last thing about the emulation topic before we completely move on from that is there's this thing coming up right now. It's called Emudec. And basically what it is it's an application that I have downloaded on my computer, and you can download it on computers now, Windows and stuff, and it literally...
How many emulation services do you have?
No, listen, and it basically... That's actually the only one I have, because this is the point of it. It is the first...
emulator for emulators.
It is basically the first emulation hardware where they basically treat it where like it's a single download that downloads everything you need to emulate for you. So instead of having to specifically go like, oh, I want to play a Wii game, so I'm going to go download a Wii emulator, and I want to go play this game, so I got to download like a specific emulator for this console. They will literally, you download one file, and inside that file, they automatically download all the things you need to emulate. So I'm not going to lie to you.
Which is sick.
Yeah, it is sick. It is so sick. I'm not going to lie to you. About a week ago, I'll show it to you guys after, honestly. About a week ago, I set it up, and it goes all the way up to, I think, Wii U right now. All the consoles up to like 2017, 2018.
Like from now to Wii U, or like up to Wii U and like the new ones aren't on it?
No, the new ones aren't on it, but it's from literally like the first consoles ever all the way up to the Wii U. And you press download, and I can literally right now on my computer go, and they made it so simple because you have all these folders labeled what they're labeled, and literally all you have to do is you get your game ROM, you drop it in your folder, and you can go, and the box art shows up on the little thing, and you can like see a little description of the game. It even plays a little video for you, and you just press play, and you can play. And that's what Emudec is doing. It's so sick. And it made it so that emulation... It's called Emudec. And it basically makes emulation simple. And it's so sick. And then, obviously, big companies start to complain like, oh, if we're going to make emulation this easy to do, more and more people are going to start doing it, then we're going to start losing more and more sales. They start to care about it more and more the bigger it gets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So are you supposed to, with an emulator, purchase the game?
Convenient.
Well, yes. Legally speaking,
yeah.
you have to strip the ROM off, like take the ROM off the physical game that you own.
Oh, like okay, yeah.
So you would have to literally like figure out a way, which there are ways, to like basically take the the disc or the cartridge of the game that you want, and just basically take the ROM file from it and put it on your computer. That's the way to legally use an emulator. But the way to illegally use it is just download it, which is obviously way easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just there's a whole argument with that right now, and it's kind of it's funny to get a take from. Well, it's not funny. It's cool to get a take from people who aren't like quite as in that space area. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the other thing is the Switch 2 rumors. There's a bunch of rumors.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
What?
There's a bunch of rumors of the Nintendo Switch 2 coming out.
Can't believe rumors you hear these days.
Super soon.
The Switch 2?
The Nintendo Switch 2, yeah. So it
Dang.
originally the initial rumors were that it was going to launch this year, late this year around Christmas. But now there's rumors that it's got pushed back to March of 2025. But my questions are to you guys. The Switch was super revolutionary in its idea to be a hybrid console, really the first of its type, or at least the first that was really successful and made other consoles and companies want to do that. How do you guys feel about that form factor? Do you agree that Nintendo should stick with that form factor and keep doing that? Or do you think they should do what they've always done and completely change it? Because this would be the first time, besides technically the Wii U, but a lot of people don't even count the Wii U as a console. This would be really the first time that Nintendo basically takes one of their super successful consoles, besides the Wii, and basically makes a second version of it. Instead of going like a completely different route, changing it up completely, they basically just make another version of it that's more powerful. Do you think that's a good idea for Nintendo or no?
I feel like
I
if
think
they already...
for right now,
Yeah.
I think for right now it is, just because the first one came out, 2017?
Yeah, 2017.
So, I mean, it's been around for a while, but not too long. And I think the Switch is really good, but it could be better. And I think if you make a better, more updated version of that, you're going to have a lot more possibilities with that. And I think if they keep running with that for a couple more years, make different variants of the Switch, it's just a matter of time before they do switch things up, because the Switch has been like this revolutionary type of console, one of the first of its kind. So I think if they keep running with what they have right now, I think they'll see the same success that it has in the past.
I agree with that, but I also feel like if they already have a super successful item like the Nintendo Switch, if they make something completely different, they have a chance for both of them to blow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's the whole idea of like, do you want to build off the success you already have and possibly tamper it with the fact that there's a bunch of people that already have a Switch? Like, there's going to be a bunch of people for sure, if they don't do enough, that are just going to be like, why do I need a Switch 2? I already have a Switch.
I think
that's what people are going to say.
If they're making it like the Switch, they have to improve a lot of things
Yeah.
for it to be a big actual thing.
I feel like it's gonna be similar to like Xbox releasing the Xbox, like was it the Xbox X?
Series X.
Series X, yeah. And like, even though it's the same console, it's a much more powerful console.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Switch that's a big issue it's had. It's not like super powerful. It can't process that much.
Mm-hmm.
You make a better version of it, I feel like it could be really great. I'm just afraid they're gonna drop it for like $500 and it's gonna be overpriced. And
The Apple Vision Pro.
yeah,
13, yeah.
that's the only downside I see of it, is it being an overpriced console. But I think even if they're remaking the design and like the handheld and you could put it in and put it on the TV, I feel like the design is amazing and it could use improvement, which could be beneficial. I'm just afraid of mostly the price that they're going to release it at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think whatever price they do release it at, I think it will be fair to a certain point, because the Switch right now is like $300.
Yeah, it's 300 for the base.
450.
It's 300 for the base Switch, 350 for the OLED Switch, which is like the newest
Yeah.
Switch, and then 200.
For
I
the
think
Lite.
200 or 250 for the Lite.
Yeah.
I think it's 200 for the Lite. So.
Yeah, I think whatever they do come up with, it's going to be somehow more convenient. The graphics, I think the graphics on the Switch right now could be a lot better. And I
Agreed.
think they're going to be able to run
Buddy, wait,
games
pause.
on
I just
this-
want to say, wait, one quick thing, Liam, sorry. Buddy just said agreed when he said the Switch graphics aren't good, yet he hasn't played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, and he owns a Nintendo Switch. Dude has not played the two most popular Nintendo Switch games, two of the greatest games of all time. and he says, "Oh, the graphics aren't that good." Well, you haven't played two of the most beautiful games of all time. To play those and then come back and talk to me.
I mean, no matter what you play, the graphics still kind of suck on the Switch.
No, they do not.
Yeah.
No, okay, they are not as good as other things, but play Breath of the Wild, and there's not a single chance you don't say, "Wow, this game is gorgeous."
My iPod Touch had better graphics than that.
What? Yeah, I was gonna say they don't suck, but it's definitely not like as good as a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X.
Okay, wait, Liam, what were you gonna say?
But yeah, it's funny.
I didn't say that the graphics weren't beautiful. I'm just saying that they're going to make them a whole lot better. And that you will be able to run more games that you wouldn't have been able to run before. Like, for example, the Steam Deck, it's like $600.
Yeah.
And you can play games at, like, low settings with, like, 30 to 60 frames per second. It's going to be like that, but, like, my prediction, graphics are going to have to be way better.
Yep.
You're going to have to be running it way smoother. The battery life is going to have to be significantly better, right? They're just going to have to improve just everything, and I think they will. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
doubt that.
I for sure agree with that. I think the Switch not being beautiful comment is a little crazy. I do agree, graphics are not as good as the other consoles, but seeing what Nintendo has been able to do with how little power they have is just mind-blowing. Like, the fact that, I'm not going to lie to you, some of the most beautiful games I've played aren't even because of the fact of how actually, like, stunning gorgeous they are. Like, for example, off the top of my head, Road 96, gorgeous game. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, both gorgeous games. And all three of those games are not, like, hyper-realistic, crazy. What's really makes them special is how well optimized they are, how well they run, and the fact that they're able to take a kind of design style that's not crazy realistic, but still realistic enough, and make it look so beautiful with how little power they have. And that's exactly what they were able to do.
So with the Nintendo, I think they haven't really gone for like a realistic like graphic design. They've always kind of gone for like the nostalgic factor where you look at it, you're like, I'm playing a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing a Nintendo game, you want to feel like you're playing a Nintendo game. And I think that's what they do really well. I think it is extremely impressive what they have done on the Switch, like what you have been able, or what you can play, like Breath of the Wilds, on something that you can take literally anywhere with you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's still literally as mind-blowing to this day to me. Like, even games that aren't like that, like, the fact to me in my little brain that you can,
Very little.
I can play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is easily the most beautiful Mario Kart game, and I love Mario Kart, and like the idea in my head that I can play the same game that I played on my Wii U, Mario Kart 8, back in the day, I was like, wow, this game is just like the HD it was the first Mario Kart game with HD graphics. I was like, wow, this looks great. And the fact that now, today, when it literally released in 2017, I can still pick it up and be like, wow, when I'm playing this in handheld, this game looks great. Like, this game looks good for an animated style game.
Yeah.
You know?
My favorite Mario
absolutely.
Kart, Mario Kart Double Dash in the GameCube.
Double Dash
It doesn't
is
get
good.
better than that.
Double Dash
Like,
is good.
Double Dash is just, I remember playing that when I was younger. It was just so fun. Just like both being on the same car.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
that's my favorite.
They did definitely, although Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I would say you can't really argue that any other game controls better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because controls-wise, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the drifting, how well they do car combinations and stuff like that is superior, far superior than any other game. But the fun factor of Double Dash and the new idea it had with having two people on one cart, that's a type of Nintendo. That's a total like Nintendo move. That's something very Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
Like in a kart race or like trying to like mix it up, make it fun, and they nailed it on that game. Nailed it straight on the head. That was a great game.
Can I ask you through a question? This is just a fun question. What are your top 3 favorite games of all time? Not what you think is the best, just the 3 that you have gotten the most joy out of playing.
Oh,
Just your
dear.
favorite.
Most joy out of playing? I don't even. Most joy out of playing? I'll go
Like,
first.
just your favorite. Just it doesn't
I
have
mean,
to be anything
Road
crazy,
9.
just your favorite.
There's so many. Wait, didn't we already do this? Am I tripping?
I don't know. Maybe we could just go over it quick.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
go-
not sure.
Before you start, my list is gonna be awful because I don't play anything.
Yeah,
good.
I was gonna say it totally depends. It obviously totally depends on what your perspective of games is, and it's super hard just to limit it down to 3. But for me, just because I feel like I have to hit all my bases, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, because I think it built on Breath of the Wild and just did everything it did better. I think it's the greatest, open world adventure game ever. It kind of pains me to say it, and it's kind of cringe, but at the same time, it's just not. Like, Fortnite, I mean, just the memories I have on that game of, live events, back in, the OG seasons, playing with the boys. I really don't think, we definitely did this, because now I'm literally saying some stuff I already said. But still, my point still stands that it's just a super fun game, and the memories I have on that are unchanged. And the third spot, it's tough. There's so many games that come to my head as of, like Mario Kart. But really a standout for me is Road 96. I've mentioned it before. Super fun. It's kind of a story, narrative-driven game. Jeez, I can't talk. Basically, the decisions you make throughout the story affect the rest of the story, and it's kind of like an adventure game. You're trying to escape, a super politically corrupt country. Super cool game. I go check it out, play it with a friend. It's great.
That's cool.
But something, I would like to mention with all three of those games is that, for me, maybe this is different for other people, although, of course, pretty graphics are great, I have never been the type of guy that's not going to like a game based off the graphics. Because there are games that the graphics aren't that great, that the game is just so stinking fun that it just doesn't matter. I mean,
Just Act Natural?
Literally what I was about to say, there are so many fun Steam games, like Just Act Natural, One Arm Robber, all these games that we've been picking up playing with the boys that are just so much fun.
But the graphics are awful.
But the graphics are all awful. But that doesn't take away...
But that's part of the game, too,
yes,
and that's what makes it fun.
doesn't take away from the fun for me. So
All those one-arm games.
See that charm.
Yeah. So yeah, it adds to charm, and that's the whole thing. What I was saying about the Switch, it's it's beautiful. Almost the graphics are beautiful in its own way because it's it doesn't have to be hyper realistic to look great. It can just look great by being a fun game and still looking good enough. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Noah?
Right.
Well, my list is gonna be awful, but I would say number 1 is gonna be Geometry Dash. I'm sorry,
yeah,
but it has to be Geometry Dash. Number 2 is probably, you might say this, Rocket League. I played...
That's a great game.
Season 2, not the very beginning, but it was still growing. And the memories I made playing that...
Yeah.
We played a bunch too.
We were on a grind for a little bit, yeah.
We did. We played tournaments and we got ranked. It was so much fun. Third... Can I say Brawl Stars?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll say Brawl Stars, I guess.
Supercell makes great mobile games.
They do make really good
great
mobile games.
Mm-hmm.
That was the game I was trying to get on my laptop the other day.
Yeah, if
it
there's
was, yes. It's so sad that you can't
Trying to emulate that game too?
I was trying to. It's awful.
Yeah.
I guess the emulator I was using though probably wasn't the greatest, but still, it's just I wish. Shout out to Supercell. Get your games on PC. I will play up a lot more.
Yeah.
More than Geometry Dash, and Liam will enjoy that.
I think we all will.
Gavin,
Whatever.
Gavin, what do you say?
I honestly don't know. When you were talking about Nintendo games, and we're talking about that, it got me thinking. Super Mario Brothers on the Wii.
Yep.
I played that game
Super Mario
so
Bros.
much when I was younger.
That's such a good one.
Beat the whole game. So I would go through it I just restart the game and do it over and over. So fun. I'd go back and do it again.
Did you ever play any of the Lego Batman or the Lego
Yes,
Star Wars
dude.
movies on the Wii?
Lego
Oh
Star
my
Wars.
goodness, dude! Those games were so amazing.
That's true. We had Lego Star Wars on our PlayStation.
Just lump them onto one. The Lego games on the
Lego
Wii or
games.
PlayStation.
I could say those are such fun games.
Oh my goodness. There's so many good ones.
I'm gonna have to say, back in 2020, getting done with the day of school during lockdown, hopping on Fortnite with the boys.
Yeah,
there was nothing better than
Yes,
that. We were I don't mind hopping on again, but it'll never be the same as it was back in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, I for sure agree.
Fortnite in those days, I just have to be honest, was amazing.
And that wasn't even the OG seasons. That's just when lockdown happened, so it was fun because that's all you could do.
Yeah.
Just play Fortnite. No other games.
Nothing else to do.
All the games but Fortnite shut down.
And then right now, lately, I've just been on that Lethal Company grind too.
Yeah, at least it comes.
That game is pretty fun.
Right.
Great game.
And I like the game because it's more than just a game. There's actually a whole story behind it. And when we look at there's a whole story behind the game.
Yeah, there's a whole lore behind it.
Yeah, me and Liam watched a whole video about this and how there's actually a storyline, and it's you are people in the story, and it's I know it's got that Minecraft feel, you die, you start again, but you can still find things that just show you more backstory to the game.
Yeah, that's
which I think is
exactly
really
why
cool.
part of the reason why I like Road 96, because you almost finish the story as one character, but then you go back to the start and you keep running into those same characters along the way, and you learn more and more about them as different kids trying to escape this country. So it's a super cool story, and that's like kind of the same type of vibe I get there.
Huh.
Yeah.
Liam?
Okay. Alright, so one of my favorite games of all time is Red Dead Redemption.
I knew you were gonna
2.
say that.
Wait,
I was
what
waiting
is
for you.
it?
I was waiting for you to say Red Redemption 2.
Yeah. It was my favorite. Actually, wait. It's one of my favorite open world games. It's just so fun, just ride around as a cowboy, shooting innocent civilians. The story is great. Like this whole redemption arc. It's just a great game. Another one, Elden Ring.
Yep, great game.
It's a phenomenal game. Probably, it's that and Red Dead Redemption that are like neck and neck. I know they're just insane open world game. I kind of have a thing for open worlds. That's why I gotta play Breath of the Wild. I think that's just my cup of tea.
Yeah, you gotta play
just
Breath of the
like
Wild and Tears of the
story.
Kingdom. You'll love it.
Insane boss fights that make you want to like tear out your eyes. It's a lot of fun. And then third one would have to be The Last of Us.
Yep, great game.
Truly one of the best stories in gaming history. It really revolutionized what a story could be in a video game.
Yep.
Almost like you're watching a movie.
Yep.
And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yep.
It's just incredible. And just what they did with that game was just so good. And the show also just really complemented that game very well. So those are my top three.
I wanted to mention actually literally one of the reasons that inspired me to I played Road 96 initially, and then I kind of like that Road 96 is very much that same sort of genre as The Last of Us. And I went literally a week after finishing Road 96, I have a PS3 and I bought The Last of Us on PS3, played through the whole game. And it is so good. I will admit, obviously, part of the reason I loved Road 96 so much is that I actually played it with Jack, who's normally on the podcast, sometimes on the podcast. Actually,
Normally?
take that back. He's never on the podcast. But he's on the podcast.
normally on the podcast.
No,
Bro
he's
showed up
sometimes
for 2 episodes.
He's sometimes on the podcast, but I played through the whole game of Road 96 with him, so that made that game super special for me, just because I got to experience it with such a good friend. And I did play I played The Last of Us by myself. So I would say off the top of my head, I maybe enjoyed Road 96 just a little bit more, but I genuinely think it was because of the experience I had with it. Yeah. Because if I think I was going just based off the game, The Last of Us is definitely a better that. I mean, that was crazy revolutionary, like Liam was saying. Incredible game.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. Do we got anything else exciting to talk about? I mean, we basically just dominated the entire gaming sphere in one episode. That was pretty solid. We're getting an interesting view right now on Liam's camera down here. But I think
I'm looking at Road 96 right now.
Yeah, Road 96.
Interesting.
It's a great game. We got to get it. We'll play it sometime. But super fun episode. I mean, I'm obviously a huge gaming fan, so it's fun for me to do. And kind of lead you guys through that episode. So sorry about my constant yapping. I'm back in the chair. Haters gonna hate. I really don't care.
He's back in the chair.
It was informative yapping.
Yeah, informative. It wasn't just pointless yapping. If you actually watch through the episode, like, come on, I'm telling you good stuff about emulation and video games. Like that. If you care about it,
this was a good one. Your talking was valid.
Thank you.
This time.
This time.
Keywords
this time. All right. Well. Thank you all for showing up to episode 15 of the When in Doubt podcast. We love you all if you're still watching. I mean, if you're still watching at this point, you might as well like the video, subscribe, go check out all of our other socials in the description. We're getting super close to 500 YouTube subscribers, which is awesome. Bunch of followers on Instagram. Thank you for all the huge support and amazing stuff. More content coming out soon. We have made an announcement a few episodes ago that we really haven't gotten to really pursue yet, but I promise that is going to come soon. It's going to be amazing. We love you guys. Thank you for episode 15. Hearts all around. Good stuff, boys. Peace out.